So we're back for another ranking video. Today we are going to be ranking championship attacking midfielders from worst to best. Now we've done a few of these on the channel so far. We've ranked championship goalkeepers, wingers and strikers. Make sure to check them out. But today we're going to be ranking attacking midfielders, or number 10s as we like to call them. And this was a tough one to come up with. Before we do get into anything though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. Leave a link in the top line of the description down below. I'm sure you guys know by now, but a really cool football app which I would highly recommend. Over on there you can check out all the latest action and ongoings in the footballing world. Obviously, we are in the middle of an international break at the moment, which isn't the best. We got no championship football this weekend, but you can keep up to date with all the ongoings with England and stuff like that. You can also look at the players we talk about in today's video in a little bit more depth, look at how they're doing so far this season for goals and assists and that sort of thing. Like I said, leave a link in the top line of the description down below. So the categories that I'm going to be judging these attacking midfielders by are average, upcoming, inconsistent, good, very good, and elite. So 6 different categories. Before you watch the video, attacking midfielders from your club, where would you put them into that category? But without any further ado, let's hop into this one. Starting today's video out with Tom Ince, I'm going to throw him into the inconsistent category. I think that pretty much sums up where he is in his career at the moment. Back when he was at Derby, absolutely fantastic championship player, were pretty much guaranteed to get into double figures. Since arriving at Stoke though, things just haven't quite clicked for him. He scored 6 goals for them last season, but even in that time, very in and out of games. You never quite know what play you're going to get when Tom Ince is on the pitch. You know, he was one of the players who I felt did let Nathan Jones down from his time there. I don't feel like he was giving it his all week in, week out. And just on the whole, I think he's quite an inconsistent player. Got 1 goal so far this season. I'm not sure about Tom Ince at the moment. Josh Harrop for Preston North End, I'm going to throw into that good category. I think he has potential to be very good, but is just injured far too much. You know, he's not injured at the moment, which is quite frustrating. But I think that Josh Harrop, in terms of a technically gifted player, certainly up there for Preston North End as one of the best in the squad. Brilliant at picking up in those little pockets of space and driving forward. And I think that this season, especially when he has been fit, has been starting to add a lot more final product to his game. The first elite player coming on to today's rankings has to be Tom Cairney. As a championship number 10, you'll be pressed to find many that are better than Tom Cairney. So far this season, he has been playing a little bit deeper, but for the majority of his career has been the number 10 and has played that role a few times so far this season as well. 13 goals, 10 assists a few seasons back in the championship for Tom Cairney at Fulham. He scored some absolutely outrageous goals so far this season from outside the box. Brilliant at picking out the top corner with his left foot. 5 goals, 3 assists for him. Consistently over the past few years when Tom Cairney has been in this league, he has been one of the most consistent performers, and I think he's good enough for the Premier League. Certainly an elite level number 10 at this level. Then we get on to João Carvalho of Nottingham Forest. He was a difficult one to place really, and he's only got 1 assist so far this season, but he was coming back from an injury at the start of the season and has only made 5 starts for Forest so far this time around, and his performances maybe haven't quite been as good as they were last season, but I'd still say he's a very good player for this level. I think that especially towards the start of last season when he first arrived at Forest, started to show real glimpses of what he was capable of doing, and then obviously after Karanka went, he was then, you know, dropped from the side a little bit. They started playing 4-4-2, they weren't playing with the number 10, and he was out of the squad for a little bit. But I think that when you play to Carvalho's strengths, he's still a very good player at this level. You know, they spent a lot of money on him, getting him over from Benfica, but João Carvalho for me, still a very good number 10 at this level. Matthias Bogus from Leeds United, I'm going to say he's an upcoming number 10 in the Championship, only 18 years old. I saw a couple of glimpses of him from Leeds' pre-season this time around. Their fans seem to have high expectations of him, and from what I've seen of him, looked to be a very upcoming player. There's the average category. I'm going to throw George Honeyman in there. It was a signing at the time which didn't really make all too much sense to me, and whenever I have catched a glimpse of Honeyman for Hull so far this season, has never really stood out to me. You know, he can have his glimpses in games, but seems to fade away quite regularly. He burst onto the scene at Sunderland and at one point looked like he'd be a real hot prospect for the future, but didn't quite kick on like a lot of people thought he would. And for Honeyman at this stage of his career, I'd say it's probably an average championship footballer. Ajaria from Reading was a tough one to place. I've thrown him into that very good category. I think that in terms of just a footballer to watch play, certainly one of the best in the league in terms of close control, being able to dribble past people, having that first touch. I think that every Reading fans understands just how good this guy is. He absolutely ripped us apart when we went to Reading this season. Lee Tomlin, I'm going to say, is a good championship number 10. Struggled a little bit with injuries over his career, but on the whole, I think that when he is fit, guarantees you about sort of 8 goals a season and a few assists on top of that as well. So for the consistency that Tomlin has shown over his career, I'd say he's a good championship number 10. Alex Pritchard, I'm probably going to have to throw into that inconsistent category, and it's a shame what's happened to Alex Pritchard, because a few years ago, one of the most upcoming players in the championship. You know, his last full season at Norwich, he was absolutely ripping it up for them. One of the best technically gifted number 10s in the league, scored 6 goals and got 7 assists in that season. Since making his move to Huddersfield, obviously when they were in the Premier League and stuff like that, didn't always get the chance to shine there, and since they've been relegated back down to the Championship. I thought that this season he might come back into his own. He just doesn't seem to be the same player he once was. He's had no goal involvement so far this season. Maybe under the Cowleys now they'll pick him back up to the level that he used to be at. Nick Powell is probably the most injury-prone player we've got on this list today, but when he is fit, I would still say he's a good player at this level. Last season for Wigan, in only 25 starts, he scored 8 goals and got 6 assists. So far this season, he's only managed 2 starts for Stoke because the guy's literally always injured. Bradley Dack of Blackburn Rovers, I am going to say he's a very good footballer for the Championship and a very good number 10. Obviously, as a North End fan, I like to joke and stuff like that he does go missing in the big games against Preston and stuff like that when Ben Pearson pocketing him. But in terms of an output for goals and assists, Bradley Dack is one of the best in the league for that. He got 15 goals and 7 assists last season. So far this season, and I don't think he's particularly having his best season, still got 5 goals and 1 assist. I think he's very good at playing as sort of a second striker. Had a brilliant partnership with Danny Graham there last season. Oztumer, I'm going to say, is inconsistent. I'd like to see a little bit more of him at Charlton. In the absence of Johnny Williams especially, I'd like to see Oztumer getting a little bit more game time. But from what I've seen of him, from his brief stint at Bolton where he didn't really get much game time at all, and from what I've seen of him so far at Charlton, I think that at this level, probably an inconsistent footballer. Mike Baha at Barnsley, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm going to say average footballer. I think that he gets himself into decent pockets of space, but in terms of final product, not sure he's all too there as a Championship footballer just yet. Kieran Dowell, I'm going to say inconsistent. He did have one loan spell at Nottingham Forest a few years ago when he was absolutely tearing things up for them. Got 9 goals and 4 assists that season. Since that, though, not really gone and kicked on as a player. He was loaned out to Sheffield United last season when he couldn't really get into the squad. So far this season at Derby, maybe it's because he's being compared to Mason Mount, who was there last season. That's a bit of an unfair comparison. That's such a high level to live up to, but so far has been a little bit hit and miss. Alan Brown for North End, I'm still going to say is a very good player. Perhaps not having his best season so far, but in fairness to him, he has been playing out of position. He's only played as a number 10 3 times so far this season. He's been played absolutely all over the shop. He's been playing at right back, defensive midfield. He's been playing on the right as well. He's been playing absolutely everywhere, but I think that looking at especially Alan Brown from last season, 12 goals, 5 assists from midfield, quite similar to someone like Bradley Dack, who played as sort of a second striker last season. He also scored some absolute worldies last season as well. That goal he scored against Bolton, oh my god, absolutely fantastic strike. So Alan Brown for me, still a very good player, very diverse as well. Odin Bailey for Birmingham, I'm going to say is another upcoming player. Birmingham have had quite a good track record with youngsters so far this season, especially with the emergence of Jude Bellingham, and Bailey's another one who I'm excited to see what he can go on and do. Mateus Pereira from West Brom is going to be joining Tom Kearney in the elite tier. Probably not too many surprises about that. He's had 11 starts for West Brom so far this season and has come up with 9 goal contributions. Been one of the most consistent performers in the Championship so far. Certainly an argument for him being the best player in the Championship. I don't think that that's too far-fetched really. Has an average match rating of 7.3. He's just such a silky player on the ball. I think that that would be the best way to describe him really. West Brom so far this season have been playing some absolutely terrific football, and Pereira has really been the epitome of that. Playing in the number 10 position, everything just flows through him going forward. Striker Irvine for Hull City, I've been a big fan of this guy ever since his time at Burton Albion when I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Since making his move to Hull, been one of their most consistent performers over the past few years. A really diverse midfielder in the fact that he can play either as a number 10, a number 8, or as a number 6. He can play pretty much anywhere in midfield and he'll do a job for you there. 1 goal, 1 assist for him so far this season, but even so, despite the relatively few amount of goals he's been involved in, still been a very consistent performer for Hull. Johnny Williams for Charlton. Does anyone else find it absolutely mental that Johnny Williams is only 26 years old? I find that absolutely baffling. It seems like he's been around for absolutely forever, but Johnny Williams, the only real thing that holds him back has been his injury record. We've never really seen a full season of him at this level for him to fully show us what he's capable of, but so far this season when he has been fit for Charlton, I think he's been a really effective player for them. 5 assists so far this season in 9 starts for Charlton. Fernando Forestieri for Sheffield Wednesday, probably not the most popular player in the league, but I think that when we do get a full season out of Forestieri, still an absolutely fantastic number 10. Obviously, he can either play as a striker, a second striker, or as a creative number 10. The last full season we did get from Forestieri, albeit it was about 3 years ago, he scored 15 goals and got 6 assists. The following season got 12 goals, 5 assists. If you keep him fit for a full year, he pretty much guarantees you double figures. Tyler Roberts, I'm going to throw into that good category. Certainly has potential to be a lot higher than that going into the future, but still a fairly young player. Last season for Leeds got 3 goals and 5 assists. Since coming back into the side so far this season, I think that Leeds have looked like a much better side with him playing as that number 10 for them. Only got the 1 goal so far this season, but I think watching him play, he's a very intelligent player. I think that working with Bielsa will have improved him as a player. As a number 10 going forward, Tyler Roberts probably one of the most promising upcoming players in there, but for where he is in his career at the moment, I'd say he's a good Championship player. Josh Windass for Wigan Athletic, I think that the inconsistent category pretty much sums him up to a T. There's not much more I need to say about Josh Windass really. When he is on form, capable of scoring an absolutely cracking goal and driving Wigan forward, but that day seems to be quite few and far between with someone like Windass. Jan Dander at Swansea does seem to be a fairly inconsistent player, but as he's still 20 years old, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and I'll put him as an upcoming player. Maybe, you know, can go on to do big things in the future. 50 grand Daniel Johnson is going to go into that very good category. 12 goal contributions in 14 games so far this season is absolutely mad for Daniel Johnson, but for the majority of the time that Preston have been playing in the Championship, DJ has mostly been playing as a deep line playmaker. In that position, he would be fairly inconsistent, but since being moved back into that number 10 this season, what a phenomenal player he's been for us. We're only in November of this season, but Daniel Johnson so far has more goals and assists than he has in any of his previous seasons, albeit a few of his goals have come from the penalty spot, but that shouldn't take away from what a fantastic player DJ's been so far this season. Izzy Brown from Luton, I'm going to throw into that good category. We've seen him have a few different loan spells out of the Championship in previous years of varying success. I think that Luton so far has really suited him. Reece Brown at Huddersfield, despite being 23 years old, I'm still going to put him as an upcoming player. I think that obviously he came through at Birmingham, then moved out to Forest Green Rovers, had a really good season there last time, where he scored 11 goals, and now being back at Huddersfield, I'm going to say for the time being he's an upcoming player just for the fact that I've not seen enough of him in the Championship to make my mind up on him. Very Eze at QPR, I'm going to have to throw into the elite category. So far this season, statistically, Eze has been the highest performing player. 10 goal contributions, 6 goals, 4 assists. I think that he's completely taken his game to another level. If I was making this video last season, I probably would have put Eze as probably a good attacking midfielder, but this season, completely gone to a new level. He's had 5 man of the match performances so far this season for QPR, has been an absolutely integral part of why they have been scoring so many goals. Still, one of my favourite goals so far this season was Eze's against Stoke on the opening day when he ran through their entire squad to put it in the back of the net. So far this season, Eze is performing on a level with the likes of Tom Kenny and Pereira, and undoubtedly for me, deserves his place in that elite tier. He's going to go on to do big things. Conor Gallagher on loan at Charlton at the moment. I'm going to say he's a very good player. Scored some outrageous goals so far this season. That goal against Derby really being the pick of them, but a very intelligent player. Can either play as that attacking midfielder or a little bit deeper in midfield. Quite similar to Mason Mount last season. Mark Duffy, I'm going to say he's a good player, getting on now a little bit. Obviously being back in the Championship with Stoke, played an integral part of Sheffield United's promotion push last season. Holmes at Derby, I'm going to say inconsistent for the time being. Seems to be one of those players who can drift in and out of games. When he is on it, can be quite a creative influence for them going forward, but in terms of goals and assists and stuff like that, I'd say inconsistent for the time being. John Terrell, I think, is a good player for the Championship, and it's just a shame of his injury record. I think that once again, he's now going to be missing more of the season for Hull City. Real shame, because I think he's a really technically gifted player. Jamie Patterson, I'm also going to put into that good category. Not really been fully utilised by Derby so far this season, but from judging mostly from his time at Bristol City, I would say he's a good Championship player. Casey Palmer for Bristol City, I'm going to say he's a very good number 10. I think that he's probably been the only player who's come to Deepdale so far this season to get the better of Ben Pearson, and that is saying something, because you guys all know how highly I do rate Ben Pearson, but Casey Palmer that day was on it, and I think that in terms of a creative influence going forward when he's on it for Bristol City, can be a really influential player for them. Bobby Reid's another one who I'm going to throw into that very good category. Obviously, he had a fantastic time at Bristol City, he made his move to Cardiff and things didn't really work out for him. So far at Fulham as well, he's not quite got going, but I'd say that that's really been down to maybe Scott Parker not quite getting the best out of Bobby Reid. I think that if played in the right system with the right people around, Bobby Reid for me still an absolutely fantastic player at this level. He absolutely ripped it up in his last season at Bristol City. Thiago Silva at Nottingham Forest, I'm going to say he's very good. I might be jumping the gun a little bit on that one because I've not seen all too much of him compared to everyone else on this list so far, but what I have seen of Silva, I have really liked. I think that he's grown into the season as it's gone on for Nottingham Forest, is keeping Carvalho out of that number 10 spot for Forest at the moment, and that's saying something in itself. He gave Derby the absolute runaround last week, probably for me, my man of the match in that game. Dan Crowley of Birmingham as well, I'm going to say he's a very good Championship number 10. I think that he's not perhaps playing in sort of the most clinical side in Birmingham in terms of finishing chances, but I think that in terms of someone who's created a lot of chances, absolutely brilliant at threading a through ball through, you know, he can take about 5 opposition players out of the game with one simple pass. Dan Crowley, really technically gifted midfielder, and for me, one of the most enjoyable people to watch in the league. Bertrand Selina at Swansea, I'm going to say he's a very good attacking midfielder. Been playing on the left hand side for Swansea recently. I prefer him when he's in that number 10 role, but I've liked him ever since his time at Ipswich Town. He had a fantastic loan spell there, and since making his move to Swansea, been a really consistent performer for them. Kravinovic at West Brom, I'm going to say he's a good player. I've not really seen all too much of him. Obviously, he was involved in the squad at the start of the season, and then since the emergence of Pereira, really, Kravinovic has mostly been on the bench, but from the glimpses I have seen of him, very tidy footballer. John Swift was always a player before this season who I'd associated with being quite inconsistent, but but this season, I think he's been fantastic for Reading. 2 goals, 6 assists, an average match rating of 7.42 with 3 man of the matches. Lewis Wing at Middlesbrough, I'm going to say inconsistent. Had a really good start to the season where he scored a worldie against Luton, but hasn't really kicked on since then. But guys, there you have it. As you can see on screen now, there are my rankings for Championship attacking midfielders. So if there's any that I've left off this video, leave them in the comments down below and I'll tell you which category I would put them in. Also, leave in the comments down below what position would you like to see me do this with next, or would you like me to do it with another aspect of the Championship? You know, would you like me to see ranking managers, captains was another one. That's all we had suggested last time, so let me know down below. But other than that will wrap up for today's video, guys. So thanks so much for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure you leave a like, make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.